small town journalism compared to big city journalism, of course it's different. We report on mountain rescues as opposed to elevator rescues. But when you come right down to it, it's the same issues, just on a smaller scale. And one of the big differences, I think, in reporting on your community is you're more likely to know the people that you're reporting about. And sometimes good people do bad things. That hurts to write about. It's hard to pick out the strangest thing that I did at the newspaper, but one of the strangest things was flying in an antique World War II B-17 bomber. And I had to make a hard choice. Did I fly in the B-24, which was the only one fully restored that was in the air at the time, or did I pick the B-17? I picked the Flying Fortress, the B-17, because I felt more of my readers would relate to that experience. It was the workhorse of the bombing mission of World War II. There were a lot of rewarding experiences working at the newspaper. The one that stands out in my mind, though, would be the story of Jake Bergeron, the 17-year-old boy who was confined to a wheelchair by muscular dystrophy. I wrote a story about Jake to help him get a job. He wanted to pay his own way when he went out with his friends after school. So when I heard that he was going to go on the moose hunt, I said, I got to go along. I got to report on this story. And Jake didn't have the strength to pull a 2-pound trigger, so he used a stick through the trigger guard and pulled it with both hands to fire the rifle. And darned if he didn't get his moose. Most difficult thing about being a journalist, well, there's a number of them. You know, the pay is rather sad. The hours can be really difficult. Your weekends can be blown away. But the number one thing, I think, is stress. You're up against the never-ending deadline. And in the beginning, it used to bother me. After a while, I got used to it. I didn't notice it. But when I retired, all of a sudden, my weekends were twice as enjoyable because I didn't have that Monday afternoon deadline. The best advice I could give somebody who's considering a job in journalism is get a taste of it beforehand. Any way you can. Consider job shadowing a reporter as he goes about his rounds. Consider writing a column. Get your foot in the door. When I retired from journalism, I stopped reporting, but I didn't stop writing. I still write the outdoor columns. I write press releases for a couple of different organizations, and I tried to reinvent myself as a novelist, which is kind of a cliche, I know, but 500 or 1,000 words was the limit for what I wrote all those years, and having 100,000 words was like having an unlimited budget. It was fun. And one of the characters that I created was a bartender. Should have been easy, like falling off a log, because I did that for almost a decade. And when I got right down to it, I realized how much I'd forgotten. And I wondered, well, maybe someday I'll create a character who's a newspaper reporter, and maybe I should write it down now so I don't forget. And the result is working at the Word Factory. So who should read my book? Well, I think that anybody who's just plain curious about what happens in a newsroom or what the life of a small town community newspaper reporter is like would enjoy it. But I also think it's valuable for somebody that's considering a career in journalism. I learned the hard way, on the job, and you could avoid some of my mistakes and you could benefit from some of the things that I've learned. I think this is a book that I would have liked to have had when I first started writing for the newspaper.